everybody, and welcome to episode number 6 of the Sharp Edge podcast with Betty Parker. I am happy that you have decided to stop by again this week to hear a little bit more about some of the people issues we've been tackling since the beginning of this podcast. So I am excited today as well because I am joined by Dr. Stephanie Kirkland, who is going to talk to us about identity-centered leadership. So this is Dr. Stephanie Kirkland of Identity Dynamics, and she's going to spread a lot of, I'm sure, a wealth of information, Stephanie, for us who are looking for answers around how do we continue to work, be in these spaces at work and help manage up the org chart, and even also our peers and ourselves, that whole, how do I manage me as well? And I love this idea around identity. So welcome, first of all.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. So tell me a little bit about what identity-centered leadership is.
Identity-centered leadership is the conversation around kind of what you said earlier. How do I manage myself in these environments? For a lot of people, they really don't show up with regards to who they are individually. They more so show up with regards to the job description or the roles and responsibilities that they have in the organization. So my conversation is, you really are the gift. You are what makes those roles and responsibilities work. So through identity-centered leadership, I'm teaching you how to leverage the uniqueness that you have inside of those roles and responsibilities by first learning who you are, how do you show up, what does that look like, what are those beliefs and narratives that make you who you are, and then teach you how to leverage them in those spaces.
Absolutely. So we start with the individual.
Correct.
All right. And so once, what does that look like though, in terms of a person coming to understand their own identity at work? Some people identify with their work. Yeah. My work is who I am, and they pour everything into that. And I think that's why they get so crushed when the work or the environment or the job no longer shows them the value they seek or believe about themselves.
And that's the pushback that I give, right? You are the gift to that work, and you're not, that work is not who you are. It is, I'll use this word, a conduit, right? It's like the funnel for who you are and how you show up. And it is not the job description. It is not those roles that make what you do valuable and worthy of your time and in your space. And for even in a societal or cultural narrative, we are taught not to put ourselves first. Even if we break it down even more nuanced, we as women are even taught to always put other people before ourselves. Mm-hmm. So what we end up doing is making the roles and responsibilities that is connected to what we see as valuable be the door in which shapes us and how we show up. So my conversation is, you're doing it backwards, right? It starts with you first, right? What are your beliefs? Well, what is identity? Really, it's the first conversation, right? What is identity? It's your beliefs, your values, your perspective, your lens, your cultural norms, your societal perspective. It's even your trauma, the things that have impacted you, because all of those things come together to shape your identity. And in that shaping, guess what? It impacts what you do every single day. It impacts how you engage with people. It impacts how you engage with challenges and circumstances that's happening in your organization. So for so many people, when they don't understand that context, that they're first, and then we learn about emotional intelligence. You're first, and then we learn about diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're first, and then we learn about styles of leadership, right? Because if you don't know those things about yourself, then when it's time to layer and put other things on top of, which are skill and behavioral, which is what leadership development does for us, we end up still being twerked, or we end up going back to a default, or we end up wondering why it's not flowing. It's not flowing because you never dealt with who you are and how you show up and what that looks like. And so that unconscious understanding of yourself and how your brain is interacting with the world then can become a challenge, not only for you, but for the people who deal with you, because you really don't understand what the narrative is that is
Mhm.
showing up in those places, even though you have skill set training.
Yeah, yeah. How do you get a person to that place though, or at least the willingness to have that kind of an in-depth, introspective look at self and accept the truth about what they see?
I think it first starts with one, there's no judgment. And two, we all understand that our whole lived experience in life has created a narrative. And this is the powerful point that we get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So when we understand that I get to choose what this looks like for me, then I can look at myself through a lens of self-awareness and not judge that, wow, I'm short-tempered. I sure am. I get triggered real easy. Instead of us saying, girl, that ain't me. I ain't do that. I don't talk like that. So now it's not about judgment. It's about, okay, and I ask people these questions when I talk about identity and people start the journey of self-awareness. Why did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I say that? Where did that come from? Do I want to keep it? So now this work of understanding who I am and how I show up is no longer an attack or a judgment context. It's, I'm needing to get better, or I'm needing to elevate and evolve who I am because I am the gift in this scenario or place. So those questions really shift the dynamics because it not only impacts how you act in an organization, it impacts how you live your everyday life. And there's a quote that says, what you do in one, you do in all. So now we do that work. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Where did it come from?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to keep it? You are now controlling your own growth and evolution.
And so that, to me, I think is profound because it forces us to stop for a minute and to dig deeper into our, the motivations behind our actions, right? A lot of times I think we're not as thoughtful. So we react more than anything. And as a
Correct.
result, stuff comes up, it comes out. There's not a lot of us managing that or regulating some of that behavior because we don't know what's driving it. We're just reacting to it. And if we
Mhm.
did sit, I love the third question, where did that come from? A
Mhm.
lot of that stuff is driven from, like you said, our lived experiences, how we were raised, what, environment we were in. And what we were taught in our
Mhm.
growing up or allowed to learn. Sometimes parenting nowadays, they just letting kids figure it out on their own without
Right.
a lot of guidance. So I love that question more than all of them because it makes us figure out what are the origins of our behavior. And that's
Correct.
causing us to behave the way we do it at work.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you're coaching people in this area? Tell me a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Well, I have a program called Leveraging Your Uniqueness. Is what I usually use for my interaction through corporate or developmental work in those environments. Because again, like we said before, so many people are like, okay, now that's a little deep, but really it's not. It's fundamental. And so I created Leveraging Your Uniqueness to support organizations in supporting their people in adding this foundational piece to their work. And so we talk about, okay, so Stephanie, yeah, okay, I get it. I need to work on this. So what do I do? So then I give these steps on an actual process for doing the work on yourself because we all have different outcomes, right?
Mhm.
So, the process is the acronym of identity. So first is insight, which is the self-awareness. D is deconstruct because we need to then, evaluate and deconstruct those things. Then
Mhm.
it's empower because we take what we've learned and now empower ourselves to move forward. Then the N is navigate. So now we have to use this new information to navigate the challenges and the circumstances that are happening in our space. And then next is, transform, right? We're no longer the same. We're showing up differently, right? We're looking at ourselves through a different lens. And so, I mean, just as we go through, those are just some examples of some of the letters and how they show up. But that whole process of going through those things gives people tools, right? So
Mhm.
now that we've asked the questions, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Where did that come from? Do I want to keep it? Now, Stephanie, how do I change it? We change it by going through the process. What specifically do you need to change? And so I
Mhm.
tell people, this conversation is, where is it that I want to be? It's the covey, beginning with the end in mind. What is that? Where is that destination for you? It could be something as simple as, you know what, I want to add integrity to my life, right? So, okay, we begin with the end. Integrity is something that's fundamental to your values, which is a part of the context of, our beliefs. So I want to begin with that. And you know that you're here. So the work is in the middle, right? So now you know what you need to do because you know where you are. You ain't working with it, right? You know where you want to go, but now you have some information that helps you to support your own growth and your own movement through your own I would use the word evolution because we are always perpetually
Right.
growing and understanding and building ourselves out. So
Mhm.
then it takes the quote unquote hardness out of what we call personal work or self leadership or self mastery, and it
Mhm.
makes it a process that we can intentionally do as we do the personal work.
So I can see this being very effective for people, individuals who work on teams. I need to know how to show up at work and be a good team player and all those things. How how important is this for someone who's in a leadership position?
Now, when we start getting into C suite and senior leadership, it's still an insight, but now it's about refinement. And that's the beautiful part, right? Because usually, if you're in a higher level of leadership and understanding, you know who you are, you know how you show up, you know what you bring to the table. It is not you working on those things. You're settled in your truth, right? But now it's about now, how do I make this tighter? How do I, evolve in my understanding of how this impacts, right? How do I pay attention to the nuance? Because now I'm dealing with challenges on a different level. I'm
Mhm.
dealing with risk and complexity in a different way, but they're all still controlled by my identity and my perspective and lens. So now the work is refinement. Okay, yes, I know my truth around what risk is. You might be a risk taker. You know that you good. That's how you made your money, right? But now risk might need to shift a little bit with regards to, are you taking risk because of some situation in your space where you were more apt to do it out of scarcity or out of survivor? Or now is risk taking on another lens with regards to looking at the bigger picture, now dealing with a different context, not just yourself, looking from a global lens instead of just a narrow one, just as which is about you and your understanding, because now you have people under you and your
Mhm.
lens is now impacting more than just yourself and what got you to the top. And that's the biggest challenge for people in upper leadership. Yeah, that skill set got you to where you're going, but it can't keep you there. So now I need
Absolutely.
to tweak it
Uh-huh.
because what got me here won't keep me here because now I'm more strategic, right? I'm
Mhm.
less processing. I'm more in a context of what this means to a bigger program and responsibility. So
Mhm.
it's still identity, but its impact and how it shows up in a strategic person who does strategy at a higher level is different from a person who is starting the journey and needing the development in language for that context.
Do you think this is important? I know you mentioned the C suite. What about middle managers or frontline supervisors who are still in the growth process and are closer to the employees than they are
Yeah,
to the C suite? So,
it's vital for it's
for them
vital for
out, yeah.
right? Because the lens again, or the roles and responsibilities have a different context. For middle management, if you haven't worked on your identity, you could be a person who, let's just use an example, you were a Gen Zer, right? You're the first to do everything and show up. So now you might have a tendency to what? Want to control everything, want to be responsible for everything. So then you end up micromanaging.
Uh-huh.
Because you haven't shifted your identity for the role that you're now walking out. So now who you are as an individual is bumping up against your responsibilities because
Yeah.
you never paid attention to what created the narrative that makes you you. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that's why identity comes first and role and responsibility comes next. Because I don't care how great someone is at a particular role, who they are will always be in control of how they show up. And
Absolutely.
it's an undercurrent.
Mhm.
It's a narrative. It's a script, right?
Yep, yep. Mhm.
This processing, and that's when you get into neuroscience and brain work and the synaptic connections and how do
Mhm.
we wire our brains for this work that we do? How do we pay attention? And so, if you're not paying attention to your lived experience, which what we said before, you bring that to the job. You
Yes.
bring, I have a good example of middle management. I had a client who's a CFO called into a scenario for one of her stores, right? And she was like, when it gets to me, yeah, it's a problem.
Uh-huh.
So one of the tenets of this organization is family, group dynamics, taking care of each other. So when she went, she said, I wanted to ask questions around the lens of the people who were in the room. So she asked, tell me about your family. So now all of the workers, oh, we're close to our family. We have such great relationships. We love. Now the manager over those people, I'm not close to my family.
Ah.
I'm not in a good relationship with them. She asked another question. So how do y'all feel about connection and time? Oh, the whole team. Oh, we loved it. We loved working for each other and making sure everybody's good. She's like, I'm always by myself. I don't have healthy relationships. Guess what she's doing to her team? She's smothering them because of her identity. That has nothing to do with her skill set, because guess what? Everybody says she's awesome at what her skill set is, knows how to do the job. And she is excellent. And she got the promotion because of role and responsibility.
Right.
But it never dealt with her. So now she got promoted and she's killing the store.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of her identity. Do you see it? Not her skill set. So it doesn't matter where you are. You have to pay attention to the person, to the employee, and you have to give them the power and the tools to do the personal work so that they can evolve, instead of you always having pimp appointments, because now you got to do what? Performance reviews.
Right.
You talk about this last quarter. Why you still doing it? Because you never dealt with her. You never dealt with him. You never dealt with them. And therefore, guess what? You're going to be doing it every quarter and people are going to get fired. Or they're going to kill the team. Or now people don't want to work. Or your team building is everybody looking at each other because nobody can talk.
No trust.
The leader too sensitive, can't take suggestions. That's identity. That's trauma. That's lived experience. So now you have a team that can't function because the leader can't function, but you can't move the leader because they got the skill set. Because you thought you did your job by what? Giving them training.
And it boils down to that. That whole Band-Aid over the whole wound thing. Yeah, let's just throw some training at it. And let a quick one-time, half-a-day training that's just supposed to fix everything. And then it doesn't work and they blame training for failing. Correct. But it's because of, they bandage the whole thing. You're absolutely right. So I'm big on assessments. I do assessments because I do the same thing. It's about self-awareness and how do you show up in these various spaces. And to your point, there are people who they just function differently, right? Sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes it's not wrong. It's just different. And we got to figure out how do we work together in this environment where you do like being autonomous and independent and, being in your corner, but you are leading a group of people who love camaraderie and fellowship and, team, all that. Yeah, I've seen teams fall apart because of that difference. But I like the way you phrase it when you say they got to deal with self first, identify who they are, because there's been the same for a long time that people who get promoted because of their technical skills. They know their job wonderfully. Correct. But they don't have the people skills. They don't know how to connect. They don't know how to build relationship because there's something different about them that hasn't, forced that for them. So do you think this is something, I always get asked this question, do you think this is something that can be learned though? So if I identify who I am and how I am, what has driven me to this, even the traumas in my life, what can I do to connect with people who are unlike me that I have to lead?
Well, that's the power. That's the beauty of it, right? I penned this statement a couple of years ago where difference is the new leadership strategy. Everybody has to appreciate the difference in everybody else. We have to get to the point where we accept the difference. And when we begin to redefine what unity means, because right now, and it's still playing out now, unity means conformity. It means everybody is functioning based on a particular standard of rules. And really, that's about control. That's it's just easier to control the narratives. But But if we make difference the true leadership development strategy, then when I begin to appreciate the difference in me, I now have the capacity to appreciate the difference in you.
Yes.
And as long as I don't see my own difference in myself, it doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Puerto Rican,
Right.
Chinese. It's not even about ethnicity. It is about what makes you unique. What is uniquely a gift, a unique value that you bring to the table that you know and understand your own show up. When you understand your show up and what you bring to the table, it makes it easier for you to accept the difference and to show up in others. For example, I'm an introvert. I don't seem like one. People be like,
Right.
no, you. Yes, I am. I don't get my energy from people. Now, that slight context means I know what my limits are as an introvert dealing with a lot of people. And I understand because I know who I am and how I show up. I know how that I'm not usually around people who are introverted. They're primarily extroverted, right? With that information, I know if I'm over a team that is a bunch of extroverts, I know what my limits are. I know who I'm dealing with. I can accept that they're extroverts. I don't want to make them me because their difference is their power. How they show up is why I want them on my team. I want them on my team because they're different from me. I want the difference because the difference gives me more information to get to what is really unity, the bottom line, the goal, the structure, the problem, the challenge. And the more different voices I have, the more powerful the outcome is. And if you begin to appreciate difference, right? Not as something to break down unity, but something to strengthen it.
Yeah.
And people begin to take on that understanding of what real unity is. The difference is not only appreciated, it's invited.
Yeah.
People show up differently. People give their opinion and they're not scared for it to be rejected because it is just my lens. You see, the language has to change. This is my lens of this situation. Somebody else might have another lens. And guess what? We're just voting on the best lens for the end result. I'm not attacking you. This lens that we're voting on is for the end result. Thank you for your lens. And we can use that another time. You see what I'm saying? It's a whole different context.
Yeah.
And what is needed in order to build. But I guess, what is it again? Tell me what it is, Betty. It's identity. It is us paying attention to ourselves.
Yes.
So that we can show up as our greatest expression in spaces to make a difference.
So listen, I'm going to call it what it is. It's diversity. That was my whole area. I'm thinking DEI, DEI, DEI. People hate that. We've had to change the language around it. But what you just described beautifully was diversity. Yes, this is what it is. People want to boil it down to just race and, gender and all of these physical characteristics. But diversity is so many things. And the way you just described, the power of having difference amongst your people and recognizing the power in that and the advantage in that and all those things, all of the advantages and benefits to it. People shouldn't be afraid of, us and all that we can bring to a team. Even though we are different major. I'm that big old extrovert. Okay. So, and what I have to remind myself of is when I am with an introvert like you, that I can be too much. And that I have to recognize, see, if you were on my team, I'm your supervisor and you're on my team, I got to realize I can't just pour onto you all day long. You got your limits, like you said, and I have to pull back sometimes and recognize Stephanie's limits so she can continue and still be great without all of the micromanagement of me and all of the me that I'm putting in. And that doesn't work for you because that's not who you are, right? I do get my energy from other people. And, and I'll exhaust the heck out of somebody like you with all of this high energy. Listen, and then resent you because I can't get you to act like me. All right.
And then that comes from projection, right? So I can't project like you just talking too much. When I can't project because I'm married to a extrovert. I call him a butterfly child. He a butterfly. He sees no strangers, right? So he visits.
Just talking. Yep.
I know how to be around an extrovert.
Yes.
but there's that harmony, right? We
Right.
understand each other and what we bring, and I'm able to tell you this. Okay, listen, I'm not going to smile all the time. I'm not going to talk in every meeting, but I hear you. But for
Right.
an extrovert, communication might be how you know that they understand and they're on board.
Yes.
For an introvert, I understand. I hear you. I'm listening. I'm not
Hmm.
necessarily going to say something, but if I have something to say, I will. So
Uh-huh.
it's just that again, that harmony of just accept people for who they are and what they bring,
Yeah.
and everybody at the table knowing what that is, and people being able, now this is the really important part, verbalize what it is. This is what I bring to this. Like when I
Uh-huh.
do meetings, like what do you bring to this conversation? What is your contribution to this group or this narrative, so that we can leverage that? Yours
Hmm.
might be, I love to talk to people. I'm outgoing, so we know what to do with you in this particular challenge or problem. Okay, I'm the thinker, I'm the processor, I'm the
Hmm.
organizer. Oh, now I know what to do with you on this team. Instead of trying to make everybody be the same, I
Yeah.
am now leveraging the uniqueness that is at the table, and
Hmm.
everybody then begins to feel appreciated because what they bring is being elevated as valuable and important.
So are you saying that it is important for a leader to make sure they know not only their own identity, but the identities of the people that they're leading?
I think it's important I don't think they need to study all of the people on the team to know what they bring to the table. I think what's important is that person telling you what they bring to the table. You're not taking on that responsibility. You're putting that responsibility on the person to tell what it
Mhm.
is that they bring and contribute to the table, because now you're carrying too much weight. Now you're so focused on that you're missing out on really the part that you play to advance, to encourage, to empower, and to make your team independent to
Mhm.
function in their skill set instead of you're managing their skill set. So we can get into the danger zone in any kind of context, right? But I think if everybody is doing this work, if everybody is coming to the table with the same understanding, that's why I created Leveraging Your Uniqueness. It sets a playing field. It sets
Mhm.
a foundation that everybody can work from. And from that, now we can have deeper and more intentional aspects of work because we know how each other is coming to the table.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I think that exercise of them being able to say, here's what I bring, here's the value I bring, it forces us to think about that, right? And to be able to articulate it. So if anybody comes to you and asks you, we ought to be able to rattle it off. Here's what I can contribute. Here are whatever it is, that the value that I bring
Mhm.
to any team. And
Correct.
so that helps, I think, a leader know how to best use what you
Mhm.
have to offer. And then when leaders know where to put people, and where they're doing their very best, where they're able to use the best parts of themselves, you have a happier employee and thus
Yes.
a better workplace, you know?
Oh, very much so. And I do an exercise in leveraging your uniqueness because I think one of the biggest challenges is not that people don't know what they do. You know what you do well, but you don't
Mhm.
have language for what you do well.
Absolutely. Right.
So I have an exercise that teaches people the language of what they do well. And with that
Mhm.
language, now I can really see myself because I have words. And so that really does help the individual give language and voice. And it
Mhm.
helps the leader to now have some type of lens with regards to who they're dealing with and how they're showing up in their office.
So all of these wonderful things we've been talking about for the past 20-25 minutes or so, can we find them in your wonderful book?
Well, now this is interesting for my book. It is focused on leadership development, but it's more of a self leadership context, and it's called Identity.
Mhm.
And so the book is focused on 12 lessons. And these 12 lessons really do support how people can show up unapologetically themselves in environments and do that systematic work, right? And to give you some type of engagement with yourself and asking these questions. Like one of them is the room is crooked. So you as a person understand, you know what? The room is not always going to look through the perspective that I have. The room is whoever created it. So just learning that one lesson alone keeps you
Mhm.
from, looking at yourself different, thinking something's wrong with you, thinking that you're the problem. because now you have a capacity. The room is crooked. No matter where I go, whoever created the room, that's their dynamics. And that's what I'm dealing with. So now it just gives me a different capacity to deal with environment change, right? I have one that's called Embrace Your Story. Your story, your narrative, your lived experience is shaping your perspective and how you're showing up. You need to know your story. What happened? What changed? How do you grow? What does that look like for you? And then I have one that's called, create boundaries. What are your boundaries are connected to your beliefs, right? Gandhi has this beautiful statement. He says, your beliefs become your thoughts. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. Your habits is what drives your destiny. And for so many people, they don't know really what their boundaries are. And so you can end up, just for a word that we hear a lot, you end up people pleasing, right?
Yep.
Because you don't have boundaries around your own values and beliefs that are now creating narratives. So now your identity is that of a people pleaser and not that of one who knows how they show up, what they like and what they don't. It goes back to this work, right? So when you know your boundaries, you know what you will and won't do. You know what team and what activity you will and won't do. You know what job you will and won't accept. And so environment is not controlling where you go and how you show up. You do. And as a result of that, you make better choices about what's good and what's not good for you. So that's what it is. It's called identity.
Oh, I love the cover. Yes. Where can people pick that up if they want to get a copy?
You can pick it up from me on my website, or you can go to Amazon. Amazon has it as well. So, and it's just these lessons that we need to learn as we go through this self-leadership development so that we can show up and grow better as individuals.
And what's your website?
IdentityDynamics.net is my website. So you can go there and you can order it from there. And I also have what I call identity shapers. So as you're on this journey, they're not 90-day, it's like a journaling prompt. And so every 90 days you have a different conversation that you're actually intentionally, because that goes back to the neuroscience and the synaptic connections, where you're intentionally reprogramming your brain and how it's actually engaging with the world. So there's 4 sets of them, and each of them have different topics within a 90-day scope where you can just intentionally hone in, boom, 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 on reprogramming your brain for how you're showing up and what that looks like. Because it's more than just language. It's more than just knowledge. It's more than just information. There is a work. There is a process that we have to do to begin to shift who we are and how we're showing up in spaces.
Well, listen, you have given us a ton in a very short period of time. I am so glad we had this conversation today. I am going to post the book for anybody and Dr. Kirkland's her website address for anybody who wants to go and check it out and learn more about her and to reach out to her. I want to thank you again, Dr. Stephanie M. Kirkland of Identity Dynamics, for all of this great wealth of information. I knew it was going to be good. I learned a few things myself in a short period of time, and I hope the same for all of you. So continue to stop by this podcast every week on Mondays, usually around 10 a.m. to hear more from experts like Dr. Kirkland about these people challenges we have, the work that we must do on ourselves, the work that we must do to create the environments that we can thrive in and the world we want to live in. And so we appreciate your support. Any additional information is in the comment section, and we just hope you all come back and see us again next week. Have a great one.
Have a great one.